the men from the ministry. So James and Andrew Pitman, the Pitman brothers, famous Pitman brothers, that made Sling what it is today.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to a whole bunch of slides that capture quite a lot of the history of our business. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the development of the models of aeroplane that kind of came along as we go. It feels like not a kind of inappropriate time to take a little bit of a look back. In October this year, it'll be 20 years since our partner, I'll tell you about who we are in a second, since our partner Mike Blythe first started drawing a Sling LSA on the back of a cigarette box. And that aeroplane looked a little bit like this. It was at the time that the LSA category was introduced in South Africa. He was the agent for Rotax engines in Southern Africa, Africa south of the equator. He had developed trikes, other kind of rag and tube aeroplanes, and is a hugely creative character. He was the one-time world microlight piloting champion, and he wanted to be able to sell his Rotax engines around the world. So he jumped in and started developing a light sport aircraft. He's also an incredible optimist. Thought that he'd fly the first airplane within 1 year. Come 1.5 years later, he had a vertical stabilizer and a horizontal stabilizer, and he was running out of money. I was an attorney, kind of in my previous life, and I'd had a complete kind of blow from left field, a lucky opportunity where I joined a client. I turned from an attorney into a mining guy, and I spent 1 year and 2 days in the mining business. And on my birthday in 2007, we sold that business for $2.5 billion, and I had a tiny little share option program, and in a day, I was lucky enough to suddenly, for the first time in my life, have some money available to me, and I was looking for something else to do. I come from a family of 6 kids. My father died when I was 15 years old. We had some pretty tough times, so it was quite good. And my second youngest brother, who was 4 when our father died, was Andrew Pitman over here. Just came back from England. And so quite early on, Mike and myself and Andrew started up managing a little business, developing a light sport aircraft in Johannesburg. I was an attorney, but I did have a degree, a BSc degree in physics and computers, because that's what I started out in as an undergraduate. Andrew was a marketing guy. Mike had 3/4 of a drafting degree. I think, is that right?
Yeah, I think one of Mike's highest qualifications towards designing airplanes is he got a D for woodwork in college.
So we certainly have got a varied team, but not a very specialized team. And we set out to design the best and most practical aircraft that we could within the light sport aircraft kind of limitations. And as I tell the story, I think some of the stuff that will become apparent to you is that you never know at the beginning of a project exactly where it's going to end up. Probably if you did know, you would never take the first step, and one thing tends to develop from another. So you'll see a little bit about how the different aircraft that we have developed and that you see on in front of you today through this process developed. So Mike drew an aircraft using a program which we bought for $40, piece of software called Airplane PDQ, essentially modeling software. We bought it here at Oshkosh, but it actually works for the design of light aircraft as well. And you put in all of the different sizing and characteristics of the aircraft you want to design, prints out 8 pages of performance figures. So the aerofoil, volume of the tail, volume of the fuselage, what engine power, efficiency of the prop, spits out figures. We went through a number of rounds to try and make the best aircraft that we could, and we ended up with a design which we stole quite substantially from other metal aircraft designs. We wanted a metal airplane because we wanted people to be able to build it easily at home. We wanted it to be big enough. We knew some of the characteristics. We eventually found an engineer in the South African military industrial complex guy called Jan Barnard. They called him Barry's. And very conservative. He was the aerodynamicist on a South African military helicopter called the Rooivalk. And he had a lot of experience out of that. And also a modified Mirage French aeroplane, supersonic aeroplane, which South Africans built into a Cheetah. And he took us through. We went to him with our results from the piece of software. And very dry. He said, ja, gaan werk, maar dat gaan niet so goed werk nie. It will work, but not so great. Make this change. And when we got to flight 6, he said, build that aeroplane. One of the features of our business is that we do almost everything ourselves. A little bit like another South African you guys probably know, Elon Musk, owns the entire value chain. Early in the process, we found that we couldn't find people to outsource construction and manufacture to. So we bought ourselves a Euromac punch from Italy in late 2008. And we today do our own upholstery, our own parts punching, our own composites. We pull our own canopies, absolutely everything in-house. This was the first fuselage we built. And we built a prototype which was referred to as a development prototype. This aeroplane we discovered after we built it inside an industrial warehouse in South Johannesburg. We couldn't get out the door, so we had to somewhat dismantle it. It was testing the wings. It took us 3 rounds of design to get to a wing that was strong enough, and ultimately we ran out of sandbags. It only broke at 10 Gs. Give you some idea. That was the entire employment complement, plus a son and a friend of our business in 2009, the 21st of the 6th. This is 1 month before the aeroplane whose wing that was, we took off to bring to Oshkosh on the 12th of July 2009. We broke a number of wings, and then eventually got a prototype aeroplane which took off to the Springs airfield. Mike and I hopped her before we found a test pilot, and we flew that first article for 42 hours, changed the vertical stabilizer a number of times, changed the flap and aileron hinge points, and got a lot of advice from our aeronautical engineer. This photograph was just quite interesting because this was the last flight that this aeroplane did in early January 2009. And it was on this flight that we felt that we got absolutely everything right, handling-wise in the aeroplane, and should build a production prototype based on the development prototype and bring it to Oshkosh 6 months down the line. So it was a gorgeous evening in Johannesburg. My rock climbing partner, a woman called Marianne Shankart, who is a wonderful photographer, was in a helicopter flying over Johannesburg with us, taking photographs. And one of those photographs, we decided we were going to build a production prototype and fly around the world. And we saw that the photograph taken during that flight in front of what used to be the stock exchange in Johannesburg had a Johnny Walker advert on it. And if I zoom in over here, I don't know if you can see that the words hope and reality appear underneath the aircraft. So I've captured in some respects the difference or in our spirits on that evening. Mike went home that night, arrived at work the next morning, turned out he spent most of the evening on Google Earth, and he had a route around the world to Oshkosh and beyond by 8 o'clock the next morning. So we built the aeroplane we intended to take to Oshkosh, the production prototype, under very, very tight time constraints. And so really we had to go the short way, which is east to west. Ultimately we flew the aeroplane from South Africa to Oshkosh over an 8-day period, and the flight from Conakry in Guinea to Belém in Brazil, which took us 22.5 hours, was the longest ever flight, a straight line, in an aircraft that light at the time. Just to illustrate that we built this aeroplane under incredibly tight time constraints, I go to the right of the screen, you can see the date of this photograph. It's the 1st of the 6th, 2009, the 1st of June. We took off to fly to Oshkosh on the 19th of July. So only 6 weeks after that. These are the fuel tanks, just started being built. Here's the fuselage, 8th of the 6th, 8th of June. So we took off 42 days later. If anybody's got a question as we go, jump in, because I'm making it up as I go along, okay? We didn't ultimately get off 6 days later. We first flew this airplane for the first time ever on the 12th of July 2009. And we flew it for 7 days, told our Civil Aviation Authority that we flown 40 hours, and we took off to fly around the world on the 19th of July 2009. This was the big day with our families to say goodbye. Everybody asks, how do you go to the toilet? That's a number 2. Sorry, that's a number 1. You drill a hole, put an arrow pipe with a funnel in the top, you hear a kind of sucking noise. It's quite nerve-wracking, and then you wee in that direction.
I'm sure if you ask nicely later, James will tell you about number 2 in the plane.
We need Mike. Anyway, it took us 9 magnificent days to fly to Oshkosh, and it was the kind of start of another tradition in our business, which has been to substantially test our aircraft by showing them to the world in long-distance flights.